What's up, YouTube friends? It's Tony Making Food Motto over here, and today I'm going to demo how to blanch potatoes for lyonnaise potatoes. So, as I've mentioned before, blanching is a technique where we par cook something and then, or a vegetable or a starch, in this case the potato, is when we par cook it, and then after we par cook it, we put it into an ice bath, and then we can utilize that later on the line or on the pickup or when we fire it. So what I'm going to do here today is I'm just going to show you how to do that with these red skin potatoes. So lyonnaise potatoes is basically a potato that is cut and you leave it kind of whole, and then you blanch them, and then on the pickup you put them in a saute pan and you caramelize some onions, and then you saute the potatoes, add a little bit of butter, a little salt, a little pepper. It's so good, so good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this potato, and what I'm going to do is take this, I'm going to cut the end off, just like that, and then I'm going to cut the potatoes into little discs, just like that. And I want to make sure that they're all uniform, so that way they all cook evenly. So something like this. So that's my potato, and then when I come to this little guy, I can kind of just cut that off, cut the end off, and there you go. So again, with this, I'm going to take my bread skin, cut the end off. Now if it's wobbly, like I could kind of cut that so it's stable, just like that, making sure that all of my cuts are even. So once again, take my potato, cut the end off. If it's wobbly, I can cut this, then take this, making sure that all of my cuts are even. It's very important that most of your cuts are even, so that in the cooking process that everything cooks right. So if I were to store these potatoes, you always want to make sure that you store your potatoes in water, because if you don't, they'll start to go brown. They'll start to oxidize, just like an apple. So, okay. Over here, what I have is my boiling water with my potato, with some potatoes in it already. So I would take my lyonnaise potatoes and I would put them into the boiling water. Now, for time and cooking purposes, and for the sake of the YouTube, I had already put some potatoes into here about 3 minutes ago. So for about 3 minutes, you want your potatoes to cook, and you want to be able to take a fork or your thermometer and kind of just go through it. Make sure that you don't want it to be too soft, because then when you pick it up, it will break. And for these potatoes, the cool thing about these potatoes, we want to keep them cylinder shape, so that when we plate, like, you get like a really cool plating element. So I'm always thinking about plating, how are things going to look, what's it going to look like on the plate. 90% of the time that I have this idea in my head, I can get it right. 10%, sometimes it doesn't really work out how I would like it to. So once again, I cut all these potatoes, these red skins, into uniformed shapes with the right thickness, and making sure that they're all evenly cut. And then after I cut them, I put them into a water bath over here so they wouldn't oxidize. And then what I would do is drain the water from the potatoes and then put the potatoes right into my boiling water. Now, after that, I'm going to take those potatoes from here and I'm going to put them into my ice bath. Okay, so get that ready over here. Ice bath. Good to go. So my potatoes, I feel that they're almost there. I can just go through them, and even if I want to, I can taste them. Okay. They're good. So now, I'm going to put them into my ice bath. And I'm going to let them sit in my ice bath until they are cool. And then I'm going to store them, or I'm going to have them in a pan, or I'm going to do something of that sort, have them in a bowl, until I'm ready to bring them up on the pickup, fire them, or whatever you want to, whatever sort of restaurant lingo you're going to use. So, once again, so that's that. And I'm going to let them sit into their ice bath until they get cooled down. Because what we wanted to do is we wanted to cook them, but we didn't want to cook them 100%. So now they're still going to have a little bit of firmness to them. So when I do put them in the saute pan, they're not going to mush up. I don't want them to mush up. I don't want to bring them all the way so I get like a mashed potato. So that's going to be really good. And when I do pick up the lyonnaise potatoes, what I'll do is I'll get my pan really hot, and then I will throw in some onions. I'll start to caramelize those, and as I caramelize those, I'm going to throw in my potatoes to get a nice brown, a golden brown sear on each side, and then I will have my lyonnaise potatoes. So once again, to go over all this again, what I do is first take my potato and then I cut it into even circles. And then what I'll do is I'll put them into water so they don't brown. And then from that, I strain them. And then I go right into some boiling water for about 3 minutes until they're tender. So you can just put your knife through it. And then after that, you cool it in an ice bath. So that's how you would blanch potatoes for lyonnaise potatoes. So thank you for tuning in. Once again, I am Tony making Food Mata, and thank you.